Thank you very much. Thank you, Tony, for a great introduction. But most importantly, thanks everyone for being with us today. I'm sitting here in sunny, well, not today, but usually sunny Barcelona, Spain. That's where I'm from, born and raised. And for the next 29 minutes, because I want to be respectful with the agenda, I'm going to invite you into the journey of from cybersecurity to cyber resiliency, a shift in perception. While it is critical that we still keep doing the things that we have to do on security and protecting and defending and safeguarding, we at CyberRes, a micro-focus line of business, we think that deserves a new touch and a new approach. Let me show you. As the curtains are opening on my screen and hopefully in yours, we need to go back to the beginning, don't we? We need to go back to the origin of things. And any society in the world, in history, has shown us something, that any society that wants to move forward, that wants to grow, is about going back to chapter 1 in the book of life or in the business book, going back to protecting and defending, going back to anticipating threats, what's happening, going back to preventing. So not just identification and, with all due respect, throwing tools at the endpoint, which we absolutely respect, but having another approach and another perspective, especially in these troubled times, that it's about understanding, right? And this is why we at CyberRes, a micro-focus line of business, we chose the analogy of the metaphor of the DNA that carries all of the genetic information for any organization, any living organism, any society at large, with the functions of birth, growth, development, functioning, and then reproduction, and then make it bigger, make it wider, make it deeper, right? So your organizations, for profit or non-for-profit, at the end of the day, you all want to serve and serve in a good way, but you cannot do that without understanding how to protect, prevent, identify, but most importantly, and you will hear me saying it, a couple of 3 times during this next 27 minutes that I have left. Anticipating threats, withstanding attacks, recovering from breaches, and then evolving to an optimal state. Especially in these times that we talk probably too much about digital transformation or digital disruption. We at CyberRes, a micro-focus line of business, we feel that the name of the game is radical innovation. Let me say it again. Radical innovation, especially, and I'm rushing because at the end of this presentation, I have an announcement to make, something that I have probably shared with 2 or 3 countries around the world. That is something that we are launching on November the 1st, so 10 days from today. And I have decided to use this stage or this screen, this camera, to show you something that we feel pretty innovative in the way of radical innovation. Of course, understanding that, with all due respect, we live in difficult times. I mean, we have grown our organizations and companies, the world, we have grown with building more and more tools, meaning, and with all due respect, this is sort of chaotic a little bit, meaning we have developers and databases and we have clouds and we have social media, and not the Internet of Things, but the Internet of Everything. It's funny how the acronym IoT, Internet of Things, although we think it's the Internet of Everything, but anyway, IoT also serves for the Internet of Threats, doesn't it? Or the Internet of Trouble. So this is super cool, and this is a nice picture, but you need to monitor, you have to have control, you have to understand data lakes. We have chosen this picture because now suddenly we don't have databases anymore. We have lakes of information. We have oceans of data. We have seas and waves of zeros and ones, of invoices, medical patterns, educational and financial information, and credit card data. So in this ocean of data, you need to gather and protect what is important. In the journey that we are inviting you, and again, that gives us the name of the line of business of micro-focus, CyberRes, from Cyber Resiliency. Let me be absolutely clear. Security is fundamental for success. Security meaning identifying threats and protecting and safeguarding. And as this young lady, this woman is doing is protecting, building walls, and that has been okay for decades in the security industry, and still has to be done, you know, safeguarding and building a wall and building a fence so that cyber criminals and attackers cannot tamper with us, right? But the shift in perception, as the name of this presentation is, resiliency is even more important, because the definition of resiliency goes with 4 verbs, and the 4 verbs inspires us at CyberRes, a micro-focused line of business, on anticipating threats. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but to our eyes, anticipating is better than just identifying, right? Actually, there's an old saying that goes, the moment to help is before it happens. If you want to help me, I would appreciate if you help me before the tragedy happens, right? So anticipating threats belongs to resiliency. Withstanding, resisting, enduring attacks belongs to resiliency. As this woman is getting out from the hospital by her own, is on her own, is recovering from breaches, being able to go back to a normal, optimal, desired state. Am I right? And then last but not least, evolving to the next stage, to the next iteration. But listen, with lessons learned, with the lessons learned of anticipating threats, withstanding attacks, and recovering from breaches. And it's funny how we call it cyber threats, we call them cyber attacks, we call them cyber war, if you will. But as the cyber police flag that you are hopefully seeing on screen says, consequences will never be the same, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, the impact and the consequences are nearly always physical. Am I right? I mean, we call it a cyber attack or a cyber threat on digital banking, right? Yeah, but if that happens, the money is not there. And that's pretty physical, I guess. So we call it cyber, but the implications and the impact is nearly always, in any society that I know, nearly always has a physical meaning and or impact. And you know, a picture that we have used at CyberRes, a micro-focused line of business, probably, I don't know, maybe thousands of times, guys. I mean, is my keyboard grenade or something like that, just to realize that the next big thing will happen. Well, excuse me, why am I using the future? Is happening in the present continuous, please. Is happening as we speak right now. And for that you need a holistic vision. For that, you need a complete portfolio. And that shift in perception that we are inviting is now on your screen and on mine. Meaning, we call it the 4+1 dimensions, the 4+1 pillars or angles. It is fundamental that any society that wants to protect and defend, that wants to enrich and move forward, well, you need to understand data privacy, data security, protection of information, encryption, tokenization. Great, fantastic. But then we at CyberRes, a micro-focused line of business, we have decided not to be siloed, not to be constrained by just one dimension of resiliency, which is, then you need to understand as well application security. In this very cloud epoch, where applications go back and forth into the cloud, ensuring that the code is robust and solid, that you are using the right APIs from GitHub, you know, open source. This is absolutely critical, am I right? But also understanding who has access to what, identity management and access governance. For us, we feel that, I mean, identity powers everything, or at least is the start of the conversation, right? Who has access to what? When the access was granted, for how long, with which privileges. And then, of course, understanding with an overarching umbrella of security operations that, okay? And at the core of everything, our artificial intelligence or unsupervised machine learning. This is why we call it 4+1. 4 disciplines in a holistic, consistent, and coherent manner, nurtured by an unsupervised machine learning that is second to none. Let me go very rapidly, because again, I have an announcement to make at the end of the presentation. So let me go very rapidly on one of the 4+1 pillars, if I may. Identity management and access governance. We at CyberRes, a micro-focused line of business, understand that identity powers everything. And in the journey, in the, let me call it like this, in the micro universe of identity and access management, there are different sub-disciplines, right? Within identity management, you have privileged account management, single sign-on, credential management, virtual directory. You have governance and federation. Well, guess what? We understand them all. We are not constrained by one, excuse me, by one of those pillars within the universe of identity management and access governance. Let's do an exercise very rapidly, guys. Can you pick 1, 2, 3, 4 of those hexagons that you are seeing there? They are the sub-disciplines of the identity and access management, correct? Maybe things that you are looking forward to have, two-factor authentication or single sign-on or credential management or web single sign-on or e-directory, LDAP. I mean, I don't know, but pick 1, 2, or 3, and please do not close your eyes, because in the next 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna move to slide. And while it looks the same, it looks very similar. This is our answer from Cyber Res, a micro-focused line of business, to those hexagons that you picked. Meaning, we do have an answer for each and every initiative within the micro universe of identity and access management. And I feel that's good. Actually, my former colleague, I mean, my previous colleague on the previous presentation, you know, Cisco, I mean, was mentioning two-factor authentication and a catalog of connectors. We have exactly the same and even better, because in two-factor authentication, from the Novell times, we acquired the solution set and the family from Novell. When it comes to two-factor authentication, we do them all of the methodologies, all of the techniques, biometrics and fingerprint, and then one-time password, and then CAPTCHA and voice calls and SMS. We do them all. And this is just one of the hexagons, right? So on identity and access management, we can certainly have a conversation, but let me move very rapidly on another one of the 4+1 pillars, security operations. Oh yes, I have chosen a very state-of-the-art picture. You know, it looks like Houston, you know, or the NASA or something like that. But in reality, I mean, the picture is good looking, right? But what is important is what is happening in there. Different people looking into different angles of a corporation or a country or a region or a community, actually using different technologies, but with one overarching umbrella, one ring to rule them all. And we call it ArcSight. Yes, I know that the name, I mean, rings a bell. ArcSight has been around 21 years. Let me say it again, 21 years. Yes, it belonged to HP and it belonged on their own, but we acquired it, and it has been, I mean, not many products have been around 21 years. So when it comes to experience, when it comes to integration, when it comes to that single instance of the truth, we have more integrations with all of the existing technologies, more than any other competing solution out there in the marketplace, more than anyone else when it comes to infrastructure management and network security and endpoint security and storage cabins, and when it comes to virtualizations and platforms. That's what we do for a living. And of course, in a very good looking, everything clickable sort of solution. You know, what you are seeing is pretty cool. That's ArcSight. Everything is clickable. And what is more important, we have put things on top of ArcSight. We acquired a Turkish company called Atea Labs, and now we have, for free, within ArcSight, we have a SOAR solution. SOAR, you know, the acronym SOAR, Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response, already built within our threat hunting, threat intelligence, CM solution. Why am I saying threat hunting and threat intelligence? Because with the things that you are seeing on top, those flows, you know, these are the MITRE attack framework. Give me one slide and I will explain very rapidly. Before that, of course, our SOC and ArcSight has to be integrated, not just connected, integrated, you know, with identity management, with application security, and understanding, again, a single instance of the truth. But let's go to the MITRE attack framework, because that shift in perception that we are talking about, from cybersecurity to cyber resiliency, attack, you know, is the open source, free to use framework on the acronym is super cool. Adversarial, tactics, techniques, and common knowledge. Let me say it again. Adversarial, the enemy, the attacker, the offender. Tactics, techniques, and common knowledge. We usually open the door when we talk about MITRE attack to say that the book has been written. The book of attack has been written from your left to your right. in columns, from your left to your right, the tactics, techniques, and common knowledge on how they try to gain initial access, how they try to execute the attack, how they try to persist, how they try to exfiltrate data, to do lateral movements. That's very interesting, isn't it? But guess what? We have put the MITRE attack framework on top of ArcSight. So suddenly, you need to know that now we know. They need to know that now we know. And then, you know, with different processes and procedures, you can check and go and hunt. So to be proactive in terms of hunting for threats and the intelligence coming from threats. Talking about that, and I know I have time left, and of course I need to be my ending, but this is the time I'm going to make an announcement. And I have chosen, again, this fantastic gathering, this event. And thank you guys for having us, for having me. Thank you, Tony and Miko and the rest of and Cecilia and the rest of the team for having me to present. And this is why I chose to tell you something that it's a reality, but it's going to be even more real in 10 days from today. We call it Galaxy. We call it Galaxy. And if you allow me to play a little bit with the word, it's a constellation of intelligence. It's a sky of threat intelligence and gathering things that are happening around the world. Well, let me tell you something. Galaxy is free. Actually, they have told me not to say the word free because it looks like, you know, from a marketing perspective that you say free, it has no value. But I'm going to say it. Well, I'm going to say it in another words. It has no cost for you. Galaxy is our way to give back to the community. Actually, the edition is called Community Edition, Galaxy Community Edition. You don't have to install anything. If you want to call it, it's like a dashboard or it's like a balanced scorecard, but a constellation of threat detection. When you request, you know, to be within Galaxy, like it happens with Apple Music or with Spotify, you are asked some questions on your tastes, your industry, your size, your region of the world, and then Galaxy gathers information that is related to your business, to your industry, to the size of your company, threats and information and insights of threat actors, nothing to install, web-based, in a very, very, very good-looking interface. Unfortunately, this is just a screenshot, so it does not move, because that's the power of PowerPoint. I mean, it's just a picture, right? But I swear to God that this moves when you move your mouse over that. Meaning, what you are seeing, you know, you're seeing that figure over there, 43.8 million US dollars on the left-hand side. The next slide is going to be about that, all right? But all of the things that you are seeing here is clickable, is very cool, and it's insight from CISOs to CISOs. Why am I saying that? Because we have hired CISOs around the world and people within the company at Cyber Res, a Micro Focus line of business, that are actually checking this. So it's written and delivered by CISOs for CISOs, right? So let me move the next slide, although I love this interface, which is super cool. But Galaxy focus on really what matters to the business. What you are seeing up there, it says total ALE, you know, the acronym ALE means annualized loss expectancy. Annualized loss expectancy, depending on the region of your world, of the world, certainly now the Nordics, of course, but depending on the size, your industry, the threat actor, depending on the infrastructure that you have, Galaxy will tell you what is happening and what is about to happen. Actually, written by CISOs for CISOs, we have things cool like, you know, the kill chain of, in this case, the Emotet Trojan. What is important in this sort of workflow is not the things, because I'm assuming that you can have this from other vendors as well, you know, the Kaspersky's of the world, or the FireEye, or the Palo Altos. What is important is the red codes that you are seeing on each and every part of the flow. Not just the artifacts, but the dynamic links to what? The MITRE attack framework. So let me tell you something. If you have ArcSight, you certainly would appreciate to have Galaxy. If you do not have ArcSight, this thing is equally valid for you, because it goes and relates to an open source, industry recognized framework, which is the MITRE attack framework. I think this is very, very, very interesting. But let me move, because on top of that, Galaxy, remember, no cost, the community edition of Galaxy. It gives you, you know, bulletin reports, threat reports, and you have a dashboard where you can put your most frequent information, most requested, the threat bulletins. I think this is very important. But let me move because I only have like 10 minutes left. And then if there are questions, so I will try to shorten it because I'm pretty sure that you will ask things to Tony's and Tony's will translate it to me. But remember my 4+1, the one at the core was, so of all of the 4 disciplines, application security, data security and protection, security operations, and identity and access management, at the core was Intercept. Intercept is our unsupervised machine learning technology. Unsupervised machine learning technology that learns by observation, learns by checking. So I think that everybody would agree that something that never rests, the algorithm, something that doesn't have a bad day, as we humans do, something that is always on and observing, is great for fraud detection, anomaly detection, abnormal behavior, patterns of behavior. Now it knows. And instead of fighting, machine learning, some people say that there's an ethical approach. We need to fight the Terminator. Well, we can talk about that, but unfortunately, I don't have time for that. But instead of fighting machine learning, we use machine learning for the greater good. Meaning, of course, with all of the ethical approaches when it comes to data collection, with all of the regulations and legislation, of course, that we have to understand. But when it comes to protecting and defending algorithms, and specifically unsupervised machine learning, and of course, the unsupervised machine learning from Intercept and Cyber Res, a micro-focused line of business, I think that is very important to check what you are seeing, for instance, right now on screen. Anomalies, violations, things that shouldn't be happening. And when you not just correlate, but super correlate the information, I think that this is very important. Let me move very rapidly on one of the other pillars of the 4+1. I'm talking about application security. I'm going to say it very, very clear, looking straight into the camera. We are the leader in this space on application security. Fortify, which actually has a pretty cool name, which is it fortifies, it enhances, it strengthens the code of applications. Let me guide you onto Fortify On Demand. It is called On Demand because that's the SaaS version, from the cloud, through the cloud, in the cloud. But you can have also Fortify on-prem. But in any case, Fortify supports more languages and platforms than any other of our competitors. So Visual Studio, Java, C++, Python, so back and so forth. All right. So, but let me guide you very rapidly because I need to finish my ending, and we want to be always respectful with the agenda. But I do appreciate technology that actually does me an analysis of the code. Static code, dynamic code, mobile code, remote code, in any platform, any language written. So I appreciate that it gives me an analysis. But you know what? I also appreciate that it tells me a description about the vulnerability. If I don't know it, if I'm a developer, but I'm not well versed, unfortunately, on security, I appreciate that it explains me that the SQL injection is this or that. Actually, I certainly appreciate and celebrate that it gives me a recommendation of the code. Hey, you know what, Ramsés, I would change it this way. I would use this other API. I would do that. Actually, it suggests the right code in order for the application to be fortified. It is fun. It is so cool when it gives us a diagram of all of the dependencies. If you change this, remember to change that. So it gives me, it even gives me a heat map. What I'm telling you in this very fast, super fast, 22 minutes now presentation, I have like 5, 6 left. We are inviting you to connect the dots. We at Cyber Res, a micro-focused line of business, and because this presentation is called From Cybersecurity to Cyber Resiliency, boom, a shift in perception, we are inviting you to connect the dots. And connecting the dots in our line of work, is using this very cool analogy, or metaphor of a metro map. At the heart of the city, there's governance, the way you govern and the enterprise IT, or privacy, if you will. But there are different stops that if you want to move forward as society, as company, you need to understand. If you take the S line, the pink one, I mean, with all due respect, you will not succeed in this digital epoch, these digital times, without understanding identity management, who has access to what, when, and how, and or application security, where the data is hosted on-prem, on the clouds in plural, by the way, clouds in plural, or event management. But you will not succeed either without understanding tokenization and encryption and anonymization and file recovery and storage optimization. That's what we do for a living at Cyber Res, a micro-focused line of business with the 4+1, with 4 dimensions nurtured by unsupervised machine learning. But for instance, if you take lines 1 or 2 of our metro metaphor, that's the structured data line, the data that you know. And number 2 is the unstructured data line, the data that actually you don't know that you don't know. It is fundamental to talk about discovery, tagging of information, classification of information, circles of trust. Well, that's what we do in our data privacy and protection 4+1, line of business. And then combined with application security, with identity and access management, access governance, security operations, and then machine learning. This is what we do. 4+1. We have decided not to be siloed. And if you're asking, and I'm seeing there in the room, you have Miko and you have Tony's and the local team. By the way, I have been blessed. It was 2 weeks ago, if I recall correctly. I have been in Tallinn, Estonia, 10 days ago. So I celebrate going back to flying, but I certainly celebrate going back to meeting you and helping the fantastic, super professional team that you have right now on screen. They know this 4+1, this holistic vision and mission, purpose and promise. It is what is important. This is my last slide because I want to, and I still have 3 minutes left, but I'm sure that there are questions, or I can keep talking for a couple of hours or days, I would say. But that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's the difference between success and failure. We are inviting you into a conversation, to the journey within the micro universes, the journey on identity and access management 1.0 into 3.0, or the journey on data privacy, information protection, format preserving hash, format preserving encryption, tokenization, or the micro universe of application security, where again, we are the leader. And of course, security operations, and more importantly, in just 10 days from today, Galaxy, a zero cost, quote unquote, because I'm not allowed to say free because, it looks like it doesn't go well from a communication perspective, but yes, it's free. The community edition of Galaxy, because we want you to know that we want to give back. So success and failure is the name of the game, and we want you to be successful. You have a fantastic teams up there in the Nordics. Of course, I will be blessed if you need anything from me. It was a pleasure to present for you in super rapid mode. Well, I still have 2 minutes left, but thank you very much. Going back to you, Tony's, and in the Atea physical room. You have my data there, but most importantly, you have Nico, Tony's, and Cecilia, and the rest of the team up there in the Nordics to help you. And I will be blessed if you need me anytime. Back to you, Tony's. Thank you very much.